Why, hello everyone, I'm your lovely host Innocent, and welcome to a somewhat weird video that I'm doing. Not gonna lie, it's like 1:30 in the morning, and I completely spaced on I make YouTube videos every single day. I should probably make something for today. So, I don't know about you, but when I was starting out drawing, especially digitally and like in the anime realm of things, because I'm a nerd, I used to go through YouTube videos of other artists and see how they drew things, especially if I really liked their art style. And a lot of the times I would, no lie, copy how they do things until I liked how mine turned into. And a lot of my style is just a conglomerate of other people's styles that I've matched and kind of made my own. Because I'm not unique. That's a joke. Hi. But I used to love watching speed paints and seeing how people do things and being like, oh, those are things. So, one of the ones I used to frequent often were how to draw eye tutorials. Tutorials. Alan Tutorials here. Back with another tutorial. This one isn't really scripted or anything. I just kind of sat down. I have my pen. I have my little fancy half glove that covers 2 fingers so that when my hand touches my tablet, it doesn't slide. That's my dog. So this is kind of unscripted, and I feel like those are a little bit more real. It doesn't seem too professional. Anyway, unlike a lot of other artists, I don't have one set style of doing things. I just kind of have a repertoire of how I can do things, and in that I have a few different ways of doing eyes depending on what style I'm trying to go for and or what a client wants me to do. And I have one that's absolutely new and I only started doing like 2 weeks ago. So, with that being said, I have about 4, I think, 3 or 4, and let's just get into this. Blank canvas, single layer. I usually start with a new layer because I can. I usually draw with this particular color right here, no matter what I do. So we're just gonna go in with that. And I like starting super small. My canvas size is giant, and this is only 31 pixels right here. And you can see. Yeah. Anyway, let's start with how I used to draw eyes normally, which was very, very simplistic of something like this, and then that. That's the sketch of how I would draw my normal eye, give or take a few things, like eyelashes or whatever, because I like giving things eyelashes. But normally I sketch everything out that I do because I'm very indecisive of I don't draw and talk often. Control Z is your friend. Just learn that Control Z is your friend. Learn it and learn it well. I actually don't draw with this one often because, one, this one was based more off of a Korean style that I saw and I really fell in love with, and mainly because I didn't want to generalize myself and my art style with anime. It sounds wrong. I do now because I literally don't care. Also, flipping your canvas will save your life if you can. If not, if you're doing this traditionally, take a photo of it with your phone and flip it there. Saved your life. You're welcome. But yeah, I love eyelashes, and I will do this mostly to accentuate female characters and make their eyes really pop, especially with their lower lashes, because lower lashes are cute to me, like freckles. And for my lower lashes, I kind of draw this weird teardrop shape that's only really half teardroppy, and I usually draw kind of a creasy boy thing. So, ta-da, we have our eye. So under your eye, you're going to want to have skin, let's this skin color. I don't know. This is just for demonstration purposes. Ta-da! We have a skin tone. Over that, you're going to want the white of the eyeball, the iris. Anyway, never choose directly white because you're going to have a bad time. Always choose an off-white. I tend to go to very deep blue and near white, but more in this area, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it's not white, as you can see. It's close to white, but not white. Ta-da! And it makes things just a little bit more realistic looking. If you want to go full realism, it would be more in here. That would be eye color, basically. And since we're in browns, let's go for a natural brown eye color. That's not natural, but we're going with it anyway. I forgot I need a new layer because my brush pen likes picking up other colors. So this is your basic eye. Ta-da! And how I shade eyes varies from eye to eye. Also, clipping groups or clipping masks, depending on your program. Clipping masks would be Photoshop. Clipping group for Paint Tool Style like I use. And I like Multiply. Multiply will be your best friend. It can do things like this, like in comparison to normal. I also shade with this color in particular because I like it and I'm a nerd. If you want any of my brush settings, they're here for everybody to see. They're not very fancy. I steal a lot of my brush settings. They're the ones that are at the bottom. Like I have a Gaussian blur, a Disney type brush. This is a clipping mask, but a Disney type brush that looks like chalk. I have a pencil. I have a different type of lining pen. It's more soft. I have a hair pen. I have freckles because I'm lazy. I have another brush that's a little bit softer and easier to use, and a different type of line art that can go thinner than the brush tool. And blood. Because blood. But yeah, if you want a different in-depth detailing on those, I can post maybe a photo to Twitter or Instagram or something. Anyway, yeah. My general eye layout is make it darker at the top, lighter at the bottom. Okay, good. And this kind of goes with every eye that I do. I do similar steps of shading and highlighting and everything. They're just different in their own right. So with this little brown red, I would go into blue, take this lovely color, and wherever the highlights will come from, mine usually come from over here because I'm very, very original. But I would put this type of highlight type thing, and then over that highlight, I would go in with a slightly lighter color like this, with luminosity again. Sorry that I have no idea what I'm doing. And put it at the bottom and just kind of go over it with the water brush tool and lower the opacity a little bit. And sometimes if I'm feeling really fancy, I'll go back in with Multiply under everything and give myself an iris. Just a normal everyday, that's water, what am I doing? Just an iris. Lower the opacity just a little bit so it looks more realistic. Ta-da, you have a basic eye. Also, if you want to make it look a little bit better, or how I usually do it, is I will go over everything with a black, not true black, but a more bluish black, if that makes any sense, and lower the opacity a little bit so it's dark and nice and whatever. And ta-da, you have an eyeball. Wow. How many steps does it take to get an eyeball? Too many. And what I'm doing right now is just putting everything into a folder for I can better move it later. So if you hold on to that, you have an eyeball. Woo! Okay, so Next, this is going to be the eye I currently use for almost everything, which kind of goes like this. No. And eyelashes, because I love eyelashes. But yeah, that's now the basic. So, in comparison, you have a more swooshy eye that's very minimalistic, and this one is very anime. So, that's just the sketch, by the way. I sketch everything out as I said before. But yeah, this is the one I use more often nowadays. And this came about because one of my clients wanted a more anime-like eye, and I really took to how I drew this one, and I was just like, I'm keeping it. Which is also how I draw my newest eyeball, because one of my clients was just like, hey, can you draw it more like this? And I'm like, okay. And also I'm going to be taking the style of, they had me shade in a different style in comparison to my usual, so I'm actually going to be taking that as well and putting it into my repertoire of things that I can do because I really liked it. And if you can't do that with your drawing, then something's wrong. And actually, how I draw these eyes is relatively close to how I draw my new set of eyes. Just these are a bit more anime or stylistic anime, what have you. And for this one, we'll get another skin color type deal. That one. And ta-da, we have skin. Actually, while I'm here, I should also do what I usually do for eyelids. That's how I usually draw eyelids with those ones. More anime. This one looks slightly more realistic in a sense. Not really. But I really liked this kind of Korean-esque style. And I use the same type of white. Let me not have my purple selected. But yeah, I use the same type of white, but instead it definitely looks more anime, and don't be scared of anime. I used to be, don't get me wrong, and because we're going anime, why not just give myself a blue eye, because I can. Also, I'm using shortcuts. I have my M selected for my brush tool, so if I press M, it goes to there, and G is for my bucket tool, B is for the brush. I don't know what my eraser is. Let's see all together. E. Wow, amazing. But yes, generally speaking, my plan of action here is usually the same when it comes to shading, except it's just a little less intense in a way. Everything is soft. The eyes are the window to the soul, so you want to make sure everything is soft and nice and it won't hurt. What's different with this one is I will drag this around here. Wow, I know, makes all the difference, but also I forgot to put an iris in because I'm smart. There you go. Just an iris. Oop, that's a wonky. Close enough. Wonky iris a go. But with this, I usually, Control Z, use your pen. I like putting a little accent around the eye. I don't know. I think it's cool. It makes it look a little bit more interesting, a little bit more eye-catching. But just play with opacity settings until you find what you like. And then after that, go in with a green layer, so we're in blue territory, so go into a red and pick a nice little red And this is basically the same as before. I like doing this type of thing. Sometimes I'll actually go like this, and that's not how I usually go about it. Go like this and give a little heart instead because anime. And of course, just lower the opacity. I forgot a crucial step is the actual shine of the eyeball. I am so sorry. What is wrong with me? Anyway, you go into that. You actually choose white and you make little bubbles and lower the opacity slightly for you can see through them. Ta-da! That's how you do highlights. I'm all over the place. I'm so sorry. And with this one, you go back here, you take this, blah, blah, blah. It's the same as last time where I do that and go over it with that. Ta-da! It's a highlight. And again, I do the same thing when it comes to color. Sometimes I'll even... That's way too much. Sometimes I'll just kind of leave it at... Actually, I'd leave it mostly at full opacity. And, of course, we have the shine. You can never forget the shine. And yes, I usually do this. When you're far away, you can't tell. But yeah, those are the two eyes. I started with this one on my journey of self-discovery and then went to this one. So next, we're going to have the one that I usually do when I'm doing a more cartoony American style, I guess. Those ones are really easy. You might see them in my Evelyn animatic. They're very simple. And yes, all of these are for females. They're relatively the same for males. But generally speaking, it's this. It's very simple. There's not a lot of give to it. If coloring... when and if I color, it's not that big of a deal. It's very cartoony. Nothing really gets done. Like, no shade, nothing really gets done here. So let's just color it for good measure. That'll do. That color. And then a white into that color. And then if I'm feeling really fancy, I'll also put a shine, because everything needs to be shiny. But with these, it's not really anything special. Just, ta-da. Yeah, this would be more so for like Evelyn with Evelyn and Evelyn. I usually go for like a more Tim Burton-y dark look where bags are everywhere and everything. So, let's move on to the final one. The one that I recently just picked up. And I'm still not 100% with how to do this one properly, but I like it. Like, it's even more simplistic than my last one type deal. Like, that's it. That is it. No sketch required. That is it. Like, no foul to anybody who draws eyes like this. I mean, I now kind of draw eyes like this, so... They're just different than what I'm used to, and this is like the simplistic of simplicity, so I apologize. And of course, as I'm saying this, I would like to note that even if you draw eyes the same way for... Well, if you draw eyes the same way for everybody, I would recommend trying a few different things here and there, branching out, and actually starting a repertoire of how you can draw things. Because having a repertoire is also just fun to say, but having a repertoire of how you can draw things can make you better at selling a product, which the product is your art. So if you can draw things in more ways than one, then oh my god, good for you, yes. And here's where things take a different turn, by the way. Instead of using the top ones, I'm moving into marker territory. Yep. So with this one, I just kind of go around here, and yes, this is a more painterly style, honing back to a lot of older animes. And with this, I'm going to paint across here. And, oops, I'll make this a little bit smaller. And paint across the eye. And no, nothing's perfect. You're never going to be perfect. That's just how life works. But with this, I really like how I did this for this particular client, so I kind of stuck with it. No shade. No shade at all. I like doing random shit. This is no different. Thank you. And also, I do hope that I'm not too confusing when I do this, because I know that I can be very confusing, because I confuse myself all the time. So with that, we have the opposite of whatever the fuck it is, and we'll go in with a little cloudy boopity bop thing. Yeah, I wanted it in luminosity. And then we're going to go back to this, and with the marker tool you can go very sheer to very heavy. So in the bottom you start off very, very sheer, and then gradually glow up in the middle until it's bright and intense. Ta-da! You have a thing. So with that one I also went full black with that for some reason. I don't know why, but I do, so why do I keep doing that? I could just do this. But yeah, that's how I've been doing eyes for as long as I can remember. And it's a lot of fun. And I hope that how I do eyes can be somewhat helpful to anybody else. Also, great tool if you need it. The scale tool if you have a gigantic thing. Yeah, here's how I do different sets of eyes all across my span of arting. So we have my first iteration of a more Korean type drawn eye, more anime eye, American style eye, and simplistic but painterly eye. And if you want, I can go into how I do skin details of things or anything like that. Because I know I have very confusing ways of doing everything. That is... I don't know how I do things most times because I change what I do every single time I do it. Because I'm constantly learning new ways of doing things, and I want to implement everything that I learn into my art. Sure, going in and just doing things all natural is one way of doing it, but I don't appreciate just doing that. And what I'm doing now is I'm just being finicky with what I'm doing and adding shading to the whites of the eyes, because it looks weird having a fully shaded everything else and not having a fully shaded iris and not having a fully shaded sclera. I know how words work. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's really fun to just mess around and try different types of eyes. I know, no lie, I think everybody who starts off liking anime goes in, like, their first sketchbook is just filled with eyes. Just disembodied eyes. And it's questionable at best, but it's really fun. Yeah, that looks a lot better. That one doesn't get anything. I know I did when I was first starting out drawing. I was trying to find my style, and I couldn't find it for the longest time. I would flip-flop in between everything. And now I have a small repertoire of what I can do, what I'm good at doing at least, and of course I can do other things because I find that I'm very flexible and can do anything. And also also do know that what I'm drawing here is just the basic versions of the eyes I can do. Within these little subgenres is different types of eyes, different eye shapes, like almond eyes, elongated eyes, all that type of thing. So you would make them shorter, longer, wider, narrower, whatever you want, to emphasize that everybody has different eye shapes. Like for this one, if you want to make it a male, you take off the eyelashes for one. You don't give it as much shine. You close it a little bit, elongate it, and maybe give it an upward tilt instead of a downward tilt. I found that with most eyes, giving them a slight downward tilt gives them a more feminine look, and giving them a more upward tilt gives them a more masculine look, or at least giving them a straight across look. This one looks more masculine than feminine, but also it's... Also, knowing when to simplify is something that you can take a long way. Like, this eye is the simplest out of them, but I'm also imitating a more American or Western cartoon style, while these three are simulating a more Eastern, while these two are more anime and this one's more Korean, but it's still a more Eastern style. You get me? And you can look at a number of different eye styles and figure out which one you would rather have for yourself. I know I look through a lot of other people's art. Very deep rabbit hole. But I love looking through other people's art because I get inspired and I can see how people do things, and I can figure out how people do things and then try to replicate them myself, and I'll be like, oh, I love it. I want to do that now. I am always really inspired by art, and I hope that my inspiration and my drive for art can inspire other people as well. At least I hope. I can only hope. If you like this video and want similar tutorials to it, maybe, hopefully I can get better at it. Or maybe tutorials on how to use like Paint Tool Sai or Photoshop or things like that for basic beginner level type things. Not for people who are looking up how to draw. Not for people who already kind of know how to do things. Like, not very specific things like, hey, if you go to view, you can totally get out a new one. And wow, you have two views of the same thing, so you can go really close on one and do all the details while still realizing that you're fucking everything up in the other one. Not something like that. Those are very specific type of tutorials that I'm not exactly going for, but just generalize how to use programs like what's a multiply layer, what's a clipping mask, what is preserve opacity, what are these paint effects, what is I am confused, this is the first time I'm opening up this program, help type of tutorial, you know? If you're interested in that kind of thing, let me know. I've been using Paint Tool Sai for a few years now, Photoshop even longer, but I'm still learning things about Photoshop because it's a very in-depth program. And also, yeah, anything else you would like to know, I can try to share my wisdom with. I'm not sure how well I'm sharing it. Also, let me know how I'm doing in the comments below, because I know I'm rough around the edges here, and I probably shouldn't be doing a live, like, drawing, narrating thing. But I am, and we're done now.
We never speak of that. Anyway, if you liked what you just watched, feel free to click or tap here and it will take you to the latest video on my channel. Or you can let the YouTube algorithms choose a video it thinks you'll like. Magic! And of course, you can click or tap over here to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Come join the cult! We're always open to new members. Anywho, I hope to see you all soon. Peace out. Bye-bye!